Hello everyone, thanks for having me here today. So my name is Olivia Ferguson, I'm here on behalf of Opus. So following contact from your HR department, I'm here to provide some information just around what we can do for you in terms of managing the organisational stress process moving forward. So first of all, to define our terms, stress. What is stress? So stress is the adverse reaction people have to excessive pressures or other types of demand placed on them. So it's important to mention that there's a clear distinction between pressure. So there's pressure which can create a buzz and motivation, but then there's excessive pressure which can create stress. So stress related to the workplace. Workplace stress is the change in one's physical or mental state in response to workplaces that pose an appraised challenge or threat to that employee. Research has shown that there are many factors that can lead to stress in the workplace. These include toxic work environment, the hours worked, role conflict, lack of autonomy, career development barriers, managerial bullying. So there's lots of things. So although it's not possible to completely eliminate stress in the workplace, people can learn to manage it. Many organisations have adopted stress management training programs to try and reduce the stress levels of their workforce. A stress management intervention is an activity or program initiated by an organisation that focuses on reducing the presence of work-related stressors or on assisting individuals on minimising the negative outcomes of the exposure to these stressors. So what does this mean for you? So Opus and myself, we can support you in running your own stress management intervention. Our suggestion is that you do this by adopting the management standards approach. We've decided to adopt this approach because it runs parallel with the constructs of the key stressors areas that have been measured already in the survey that was conducted by UE. So we believe that this fits with the organisation's belief of stress as they've chosen to use that construct. So what is the management standards approach? It's an approach that's seen as the key to developing the HSE, the Health and Safety Executive, approach to work-related stress. It's both conceptually valid and also meets the express needs of the potential users. It's largely concerned with primary intervention. So we're looking at the causes of the stress rather than minimising the outcomes of the stress. There's strong evidence from the theory and practice that such an approach is valid. So there's 6 key areas that are the standards in the management standard approach. These are demands, control, support, relationships, role, and change. So this is what the approach believes the primary sources of stress at work are. So, now we've covered that, it's important to identify the issues here at UE based on the survey reports that we've received. So, firstly, the relationships standard across both the departments, faculties and services, both raised a concern. It was found that only 60% of faculties employees and 44% of the services employees did not or would not feel able to raise personal bullying or harassment incidents with their manager or appropriate person. 65% of faculty employees and 48% of services employees did not feel that personal bullying and harassment incidents were addressed by the organisation appropriately. So they're quite large percentages, and that's why it's raised a concern. However, people may argue that that's not relevant because only 13% of faculty employees and 8% of services employees have actually been subject to a bullying or harassment incident in the workplace at the university in the last year. So people argue that it's not relevant. However, I believe that 13% and 8% is still too many incidents. I think it's a really important issue and that should be as low as possible, which is why I've included it. Another standard area is control. So only 19% of the services employees feel that the staff voice is being heard at the university, which means that 81% do not feel that the staff voice is being heard at the university. Only 28% of services employees think that it is safe to speak up and challenge the way things are done at the university. So again, 72% feel that it's not okay to speak and challenge decisions at the university. Finally, the areas of change. So this was just for the faculties department. So only 25% of the faculty employees feel that reasons behind changes are clearly communicated by managers to staff. This means that 75% of the people that complete the survey in the faculties department do not feel that the reason behind the changes are clearly communicated. Only 13% of faculty employees feel that staff are always consulted about a change at work. Again, that's 87% that do not feel that staff are consulted about a change in the organisation. 17% of faculty employees feel supported when organisational change is taking place. So 83% of employees that complete the survey do not feel that there is sufficient support to them when an organisational change is taking place. Finally, only 22% of the faculty employees feel that they have the opportunity to contribute their views before a change is made that will affect their job. So, that's the data from the survey alone. The next stage would be to conduct some focus groups or toolbox talks. This would be in order to explore the work-related stress issues that we found in the survey, but just in more depth. It also provides an opportunity to discuss the possible solutions from the employee's point of view, who's identifying these stressors. Following that, we'll develop an action plan based on the information we've gathered from the focus group, toolbox talks and the survey reports. So the point of an action plan is to help the organisation set goals to work towards, help you prioritise the actions in terms of what's important, what needs to be acted upon first, demonstrate that you are serious about addressing the employees' concerns. So it sends out a message to the employees that you are doing something about this. And then to provide yourself, the organisation, with something to evaluate and review against. Based on the survey data alone, I've developed an action plan. So we identified change as an area of concern. At the minute, the desired state is average to good performance. However, the current state is bad to very bad. The practical solutions that I've recommended for this area is to establish a system to communicate new developments quickly. Ensure that the staff are aware of the impact of the change on their jobs. And finally, to provide a system to enable staff to comment and ask questions before, during and after the change. This is just to allow them to raise any concerns that they may have. It will be the senior managers to take lead on the action, and the feedback will be given through the line managers. This action is going to take place immediately. The staff will receive the feedback via email, and this is action completed, not as of yet, we've not started it. The action plan for relationships, again, desired state, average to good, current state, bad to very bad. The practical solutions for this area is to agree and implement a confidential system for people to report the unacceptable behaviour. And in addition to this, we're going to agree and implement procedures to prevent or quickly resolve the conflict at work, and then communicate this to the staff. So in terms of the concerns that we raised around, did not feel that they were not able to address their issue, and that there wasn't a correct, that their issue wasn't addressed appropriately. These two practical solutions will target those. This will be run by the HR department and the line managers. It will happen following the change action plan, which I showed you previously, and the feedback will be given through staff weekly bulletins. Finally, for the control area, the practical solutions for this are to agree a system that enables the staff to have a say over the way their work is organised and undertaken. So, this can be done through project meetings, one-to-ones, performance reviews, and then to also hold regular discussions, forums, during the planning stage of any organisational changes. To talk about the anticipated output, the methods of the working, and it also provides opportunities for discussion and input from the employees. Following this, we'll be looking to monitor and review the actions. So, what we'll do is we'll monitor against the action plans to ensure that the agreed actions have taken place. We'll then evaluate the effectiveness of the practical solutions that were implemented. We can then repeat the management standards approach survey to see how it compares to the one that has already been done. And from this, we can decide if there's any further data gathering that needs to be done or any further action. In addition to this, this approach focuses on group stress management interventions. It's also important to identify that there may also be issues that only affect individuals, and the majority of the employees may not be experiencing these. It's important to mention that we still have a duty of care to protect the health and well-being of these individuals, so we still need to do something about it. So we need to make sure that there's a way for these people to raise their concerns. So we can remind employees that they can speak to trade union representatives, health and safety representatives, or human resources personnel. We can introduce a mentoring system or other forms of co-worker support. We can also provide counselling, employee assistance services. Finally, we'll be looking to review the UE policies and procedures. So, it's useful to consider the reasons behind the issues that have been identified and the solutions that have been put in place. You should examine whether your organisation's policies and procedures need to be reviewed in the light of the findings from your risk assessment. So, from our risk assessment, we found that there's issues with relationships, we found that there's issues with organisational change, and with support. So, in terms of reviewing the policies, we could look at a stress policy, we could look at a potential workplace bullying policy, if there's one in place. If not, can we implement one? It's often the case that the policies and procedures do not adequately reflect the current ways of working, and that's because organisations change all the time. So we'll just review them and see if anything needs changing. Finally, the management standards approach is a continuous approach. So we expect the improvements to be made to be steady and gradual and to be ongoing. But the organisation and ourselves, we must be committed to continuously working with the employees to identify and address the problems in your workplace. So it's not about just solving these problems and then leaving it. We're going to continue it. We're going to keep doing the survey. We're going to see what else we find. And we're going to maintain the actions that we've implemented this time. And finally, we think that the evaluation and monitoring activities should be naturally merged into everyday life. So it should become a part of your organisation. So thank you for listening. Has anyone got any questions? Thank you.